Hey guys, Tim here. So as you may know, I have a brand new single out. It is called Howl. So you can find it on Spotify, iTunes, I think it's even on YouTube. Please go and listen to it and just support if you want to be nice. Thank you so much. Today I want to break down that arrangement a little bit. It's a piece that I'm really proud of. Especially I absolutely love the final chorus and the outro. I love it. It sounds big and wide and really full of life. So I want to just break down some of the instrumentation to kind of show you a bit of the process and maybe some of the instruments that you may not have noticed on first listen. So let's head on over. Okay, so I'm sat down, I've got my Earl Grey tea sitting next to me. So I want this video, as I said, to be very much about the instrumentation and the arrangement of Howl and how it kind of came together on a production sort of level. Rather than this being a sort of in-depth mixing video, I want this to be more about the instruments involved and how we're going to be especially looking at the chorus and the outro, because that's my favourite bit of the whole song, and we're going to be looking at how I created. And this isn't all about me, guys. This is meant to be an inspiration to you if you want to make your own music and you're wondering how to do it. It's meant to sort of, I want to inspire you and give you maybe some helpful hints and maybe give you some ideas so you can get on with your own awesome projects. So it's not just me saying, hey, look how wonderful I am. That's not the idea at all. So we're going to be looking at the instrumentation rather than the mix and those sort of like, I'm not going to be going into like EQ strategy and stuff like that. It's more about, you know, some of the instruments you may not have heard when you first listened to it, or you will have heard, but you may not have realised they were in the mix, but they all came together to make this final chorus sound really big and larger than life. So we're going to just go in and, yeah, as I said, we're going to be looking at the chorus and the outro. I hope we don't crash too much. I know that sounds sort of alarming. My laptop is getting rather full at this point, and it doesn't like me doing too many things, so I'm recording a video for you guys and recording my voiceover and all of that business at the same time as showing you this project, and the project is pretty big, so I'm hoping my laptop doesn't crash or anything like that too often, but I'm assuming it probably will do at some point as I'm showing you these things. So one more time, let me just play you the chorus. So you'll hear there's a big wall of sound kind of feel. It feels big, especially as we come into that chorus, that very first "put on your blue." It sounds big, which is awesome, which is what I was going for. So I'm very pleased that it all worked out in that way. If you're wondering why this sounds slightly different to the final track that was put out into the world, that's because this is the mix, which is not the final stage of the process. So there is a master, which is what happens after the mix. So once you're finished with the mix, getting all your balances correct and all of that, then there's the mastering phase where you do more tweaking and really perfect the sound of the output file that you're then going to put into Spotify and iTunes and all of that stuff. So that's why things sound a bit different. They're a bit quieter and things like that, because this is the mixing phase, not the mastering phase. Now, the first instrument I want to start with is the organ. The organ is one of my favourite bits, and I did a bit of automation So you can kind of hear it as we come into the, I think it's in the outro, you kind of hear it really stick out for a second, because it's one of my favourite parts of the whole thing. Because I love the organ and the settings that you can get here in Logic. So let's just listen through to that. We're going to go, this is sort of a little bit into the pre-chorus. You see the pre-chorus starts around here. So we're the end of the pre-chorus into the chorus. And just listen to this arrangement. I absolutely love it. I think it's beautiful. But you don't necessarily notice it when you're listening to the whole piece. So something I want to say to you guys is, as a bit of inspiration, is I did all of the instruments here pretty much. So apart from the drums, this is all me playing. This is all either me playing guitar, playing keys, playing on a little MIDI keyboard, or even playing, you can do like the type keyboard feature that's on Logic. Even that is in here in some parts. So apart from the drums, and I program the drums myself as well, everything is me playing, all right? And that's not me showing off, that's not what I mean. What's awesome about that is it means you could do that too. So you don't necessarily need to get out to other musicians, although, you know, I totally encourage that. It's just kind of, I want it to be a piece of inspiration for you, that you can get in there and start arranging different instruments, and you can play it all yourself, and you've got every instrument you could ever dream of at your fingertips in pieces of software like this. So that organ, I love it. I obviously played with it for a long time to figure out the exact sound I wanted. I wanted it to be sort of a melancholy sound. I knew I needed a Leslie, which is essentially like a rotating speaker inside a cabinet, which you do all digitally. I don't have an organ to play with. That's a digital organ straight out of this program. And the arrangement just follows the piano, pretty much. It's very similar chords. One thing I will say is if you're arranging organ for this kind of thing, for like a soul sort of song, or this is kind of soul country almost, you will want to do a glissando in and out of everything, basically. So when you hear the start of the chorus, you'll hear I kind of roll up the keys into a chord. You hear that, so bring, and then at the end of this bit, I roll out. It's just, it's a way of kind of bending the organ, you know. With a guitar you can bend notes. With an organ you can't bend notes as such. So it's a way of kind of making this very sort of quite a limited instrument in a way, be able to kind of bend and have this sort of soul to it, and you kind of just get messy and roll around the keys a bit. Let me see if I can find my favourite bit of this. So that is my favourite bit there, and you can hear I did some automation and turned it up a bit, because it's just this awesome little bit where I think I actually just made a mistake, and the note that I hit by accident just gave it this sort of real, it sounds like a person singing, it sounds like someone riffing kind of thing. It's got this sort of na na, it sounds awesome, and so I turned it up in the mix. So that is my favourite little bit. So there's the first instrument. It's my favourite. I think my favourite sort of slightly hidden instrument in the chorus, and also in the outro, of course. The outro being, if you don't remember it from the song, the outro, if I unsolo this for a second, is where the guitars come in. So it's that bit where the guitars come in, bow, wow, 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 and it really feels like Bridget Jones has finally found her man. That's my first favourite instrument, is the organ. Now right underneath the organ we've got an E piano, overdriven E piano. And you may be able to hear the fan on my laptop is kind of starting to go crazy, so I hope that's not interfering too much. But let's have a listen to this. This is an electric piano. And it's really overdriven, so it's the sound I wanted. So it's going through an amp simulator, or actually that might be a real amp. So essentially it's a E piano, typical sort of electric piano setting on a keyboard, and I'm just really hamming it through an amp and just distorting it, and it was the sound I wanted, and I panned it over to the left. So that's, again, it's doing very similar chords to the organ, just hitting those same chords so it all lines up. Then below that we've got this cloud shimmer. These are two, let's see what we've got. Yeah, we've got these two. Let's play them together. And these are just synthesizers that I found on Logic and sort of played around with a bit. So you can hear that it's like a texture. It's a texture, mainly in the high end. You've got all these funny little details kind of floating around your head to kind of give it more detail, and a bit of what they sometimes call ear sugar. Ear sugar being something that it's something you like the sound of, but you can't really describe what it is. And it usually is in the higher end of things, so it's like quite high pitched. And it's, those little trickly frequencies that are up there in the high end. And there's some panning going on that's part of the synthesis there, so there's little details that are panned around and sort of might go left to right, right to left. And so these two synthesizers together, or pads I guess they are, so the two pads together, really just add a little flavor, add a little texture, and they're pretty quiet in the mix. So the next thing we've got is pizzicato violins. All right, so let's hear this. This is one I think if you listen to the whole arrangement, you would notice it again once you hear it on solo. All right, and then on the right, we have this one. So as you can hear there, on the left you've got the pizzicato, so they're plucking the strings. And again, I don't have a real violin. These are pretend violins coming from my computer that I arranged, all right? So the pizzicato on the left, so they're plucking the strings, and then the spiccato, I believe that's what it's called, on the right, where they're using a bow, but it's very staccato. In how it's played. So when you put the two together, you add some width. So it's something we do a lot with instrumentation, is you put one thing on very far on the left and a similar thing, but not the same thing, very far on the right, and that's going to give you lots of width. All right, so those two together once again. So yes, it's a melody, but it's more just, it's like an added little something. It's not just playing the chords, it is playing a melody, but it's not a lead melody. It's just something that adds a detail. So that's a really nice something. Underneath that we have the King's Cross here. This is essentially some strings playing the chords to give us more texture. All right, so these kind of are sitting almost in the same kind of field as the cloud shimmer pads here. All right, they're just adding texture. So let's have a listen to those. So I think my laptop's glitching out a bit there. You can hear some sort of artifacts, but essentially, yeah, they're playing in this fashion that I really like, and I'm not sure what the special musical name of it is. My theory is down the drain, but essentially they're playing in this way where it's very, there's like a crescendo at the beginning of the note. So rather than going, it goes, right, which gives a nice sort of detail to it, gives a nice energy, essentially, where you really hear the note loudly and then it dulls down again. So I'm sure there's a musical name for it. Anyone out there who wants to tell me what that is, go ahead, please let me know. I'm not sure the name of that way of playing. And again, one more time, this is, you can even see here, this is MIDI. This is, you know, I've grabbed some settings that I liked and played around with it. You can see lots of plugins over here. So I played around with the settings quite a lot and added things and taken some things away and all of that. But I'm not playing these instruments. These instruments are arranged by me, but I cannot play a violin to save my life. It would sound like strangling a cat. So as just an inspirational tool, just remember that this all may seem very complicated, but it's nothing you can't learn. All right, so one more time, I hope it doesn't glitch quite as much. So it's playing the chords. I'm sorry it was glitching a bit there, but it's playing the chords and giving, I really like the da-da at the end there, kind of gives it this very rounded feel. Every time we come around, those 4 bars sound very sort of rounded off. Da-da-da. It's very sort of powerful and sort of sounds like a power chord, you know. All right, so what have we got so far? We've got the organ, electric piano overdriven, we've got these 2 pads, we've got the violins, and we've got the strings. Let's see if we can play all those together without my machine here imploding. Pretty cool, right? So all of those, you see how they all kind of come together and just make everything sound a bit more full. But that's not it. There's more. You can see there's vocals down here and backing vocals. If we go up a bit, we start seeing some guitars, grand piano. Let's have a look at some of this stuff. So we've got an electric guitar on the left, electric guitar on the right. All right, let's hear this. So it's a very clean sound. These are very simple, just playing some chords, just giving it a bit of attack, essentially. Let's listen to a bit of the pre-chorus. Alright, so one, we're adding more width again, so it's a big focal point is width. When looking at like a final chorus and you want it to be enormous, you need some width. So I'm often looking at how can I put two instruments together, pan one all the way to the left, one to the right, and really gain some width there. So as you can hear, this is the same instrument. It's an electric guitar going through an amp. It's very clean. But it's, you know, we have one recording on the left and we have another recording on the right, and that gives you some width in your full mix. I suppose some tips here. It's giving some rhythm, so it's like a rhythmic guitar, so it's giving some rhythm, especially there in the pre-chorus. You know, it's giving like a you get a bit of rhythm. It's essentially like having someone, you know, shaking an egg shaker or something like that. It gives you a bit of rhythm, and the in-between rhythms as well. So it really helps with that. It's like a sort of, so I guess a rhythm guitar sort of section. Some tips on playing this sort of thing if you're not really a guitarist. I don't call myself a fully fledged guitarist. I can play, but not that great. Is sliding around always makes things sound great on an electric guitar. Similarly to the organ. All right, so if you hold a note for a long time, say you hold a chord for a long time, it's nice at the end of that chord to just slide down the fretboard. So it gives it this feel of just sort of rolling away. I think you'll hear it here. You hear that bam? It just has this sort of, gives it this, I guess, more of a professional quality, makes it sound a bit more authentic, a bit more human as well. So just kind of rolling down the fretboard there is nice, in the same way as the organ's doing. So you'll kind of hear it, if I solo the organ with it, you'll kind of hear a similar thing. So yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear it there, but the essentially like rolling around a bit is really nice on a guitar to just kind of roll off the note when you play it, as well as bending notes and things like that, but that's a little bit more advanced, like hammer action and bending notes and that sort of thing. But for someone who's just picking up an electric guitar, if you're playing a chord for a long time, when you finish that chord, just roll down the fretboard and give it a bit of a wow. It makes it sound just a bit more pro. So what else have we got here? There's a guitar here that's not in the chorus though. We've got two acoustic guitars, again left and right, so the same sort of thing. We're going far to the left, far to the right with an acoustic guitar arrangement, so let's hear that. So you can hear that very much with acoustic guitar. Acoustic guitar's a great one to add width. You do one recording on the left, one recording on the right, and when you put them together it really sounds like hugely wide, especially if you're listening in headphones or something like that. You can really hear the width there added. So both of those guitars, you've got electric guitar and acoustic guitar, both adding width. What else is adding width? We've got the violins down here, so if we put all those together, you'll kind of hear a lot of width. So you'll kind of hear there, if you're a bit more advanced, you'll notice there's not much information in the sort of mono field, right in the middle there. This sort of feels like it's evenly spread between your ears. It's very much sounds like it's in the sort of wide spectrum, in the side spectrum, as it were. So what else have we got? We've got the grand piano, and I really like this arrangement. Grand piano again, and I'm a pianist, so piano is my instrument of choice, and even this I recorded on a clavinova, but I used MIDI information, so this is actually a sampled piano. This isn't a real piano, and I'm a pianist, but I totally believe in MIDI. Why not? You know, if you play a note wrong on the piano and it's MIDI, you can fix it afterwards, and you don't have to do a whole 6-minute take again. So I very much like using MIDI for piano arrangements, and if you know what you're doing, you can make it sound really legit. So let's hear this. So it's really nice, and as I said, there's some great things. I didn't change too much, you know, that pretty much is just me playing, but you do, you know, if I was to hit a dodgy note or something, or say you're playing and your cat decides to jump up and hit one of the notes by accident, you can delete that afterwards. You can go in and find the note that they hit and just delete it, rather than saying, oh crap, I've got to start all over again. So I very much like using MIDI, even for piano, which is my instrument of choice. What else do we have? We have a Cajon. I don't know how you pronounce this. I've always wanted one and I don't have one myself. Again, this is MIDI. This is actually the drummer feature. Cajon? Cajon is, but that sounds like chicken, so I don't think it's that. So this is the drummer feature on Logic that will essentially play, you know, you just put it in and it will just start playing. And then you can tweak things and change things as you want. So let's have a listen to what that's doing. Alright, so it stays very simple. Every now and then it will do a little fill where it's diddle-a-did-a-bum, or whatever, you know, just to give you a kind of a feel that you're heading into the next phrase. But generally it stays very simple throughout the chorus there. And then we have, let's check that I've sort of had a look at everything here. Oh, we'll get to the vocals as well. We have the bass. This was one of the last things I added in, this bass. But I really like it. It fits really well. It feels right. Again, I don't play bass. I don't even own a bass. This is MIDI bass. So there you go. So I got quite far through this mix before realizing that I hadn't written a bass line, which is weird because a lot of people even start with a bass line. And I had this whole mix and I thought there's something missing in the low end, and it suddenly dawned on me that I hadn't written a bass at all. So this was one of the last instruments I put in. And I really like this bass line. It does its purpose, and it really sort of, it feels, to me, it feels very much like a 6/8 bass, or a 3/4. I never know with a ballad. Is a ballad a 6/8 or a 3/4? I don't know. I think it's a 6/8. Anyway, but it feels like a 6/8 sort of melody for the bass. Do 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 do. You know, it feels right for a ballad. So I really like that, and that is the Liverpool bass setting, which you'll find in 2 seconds on Logic. And then I played around with it and made sure it sounded the way I wanted it. What did I do? I have it going through a bass amp that I tweaked, and there's some compression going. But we won't go into all of those details. And then lastly, we've got the drums here. So again, this is the drummer feature, which, you know, the drummer feature is even on GarageBand. So when I say to people that you can get started on GarageBand, this is like evidence that you can get started on GarageBand because the drummer exists on GarageBand. So the cool thing about the drums in this song is that, maybe I'll do another video on this, but I actually switch between brushes into sticks. So this is something people often do for ballads, is their verse is quite sort of soft. So it'll be brushes or rods or something that are a bit more soft on a snare drum, and then in this final bit of the pre-chorus, I switch over into sticks. So you can see here on the mix pane here it says brush set and then SoCal sticks. So essentially I switch over into sticks, so it's a bit more hard hitting. I don't want soft drums in that chorus. I want the chorus to be like massive. So let's listen quickly to the drums, which obviously I played around a lot with the drums to make sure they sound the way I want them. Played around with the drum set that we were using, the tuning of each drum head, all of that stuff. I played around with a lot of it, so this isn't quite just, you know, plug and play, but it's not me playing, you know. I tweaked things and I programmed these drums to do what I wanted them to do, but I can't play drums, especially not like this. So let's have a listen. So it sounds really nice. It's big. I want it to be cymbal crashes, you know, that real, like, we're just slamming on that cymbal in this final chorus. So I think I played around with a ride cymbal, so it was just sort of like that, what do they call it, the lead hand? What do they call it? The power hand, driving hand, I'm not sure what drummers call it, but essentially like your right hand. I think I tried with it playing a ride cymbal, so kind of hitting the middle of the cymbal, and it didn't quite sound right. It needed to be just big and loud, so it's actually just, you know, a real crash cymbal all the way through there, and I really like it. We got some great little fills in there, you know, it just gives it a real, it's got a swing to it, really, you know. The drums are always the real, the stable part of the whole song that really glues it all together. Everyone's sort of, without the drums, it's not quite there, you know. So I really like this arrangement, and if you think using the drummer feature on Logic is cheating, go ahead and tell me in the comments, but also go and talk to all the R&B, pop, and hip-hop superstars, and pretty much anyone that's successful, and have a go at them too, because they use things like this. They use loops. I mean, people even use. They go to sites that exist out in the world, and they buy beats that someone else have made, and then they sing along to them, and then they put it up on iTunes, and they make $1 million. So before you have a go at me about using the virtual drummer here, go and complain to those people as well. So essentially here with the drums, and then we essentially sort of have percussion with the Cajon, Cajun chicken. Let's play those together, because that's like your rhythm. So you kind of hear the Cajon, I think I'm saying that wrong, is kind of just, it's emphasizing what the drums are already doing. You know, it's giving a bit more rhythm, it's giving another texture, it's giving a slightly different frequency and that sort of thing, but it's filling in a little bit, but complementing the drums. It's not doing its own thing, it's not going crazy, it's just complementing the drums, so it sits there nicely. Alright, so let's go down, down, down. We have some unused tracks up there. I think we've hit everything apart from the vocals here. Let's have a look at the vocals, because the BVs here are pretty extensive. This is a cool feature with Logic, is you can like group everything together in one track, so that's quite nice. But let's listen to these BVs.
Put on your blue suede shoes and dance like you're singing the blues. Hold me here tight like you do. My heart and my feet can't refuse, 'cause the world's big enough.
So yeah, definitely some dodgy vocals in there, but it essentially fills things out. Generally with backing vocals, I find you don't always want it to be absolutely perfect. You know, you can obviously auto-tune the hell out of your backing vocals if you want to, but having them completely perfect isn't always that beneficial, because you don't, it's not the lead vocal, so you're not really hearing if it's, one of your harmonies is a tiny fraction flat or not perfect, because actually the imperfections make it sound bigger. It's something called the chorus effect, but we won't go into it. But essentially, don't worry too much if your backing vocals are a little bit messy, because that can sometimes add a bit of a human characteristic to your sound. Then we have these hey yeahs that sit in there as well.
Put on your blue suede shoes and dance like you're...
All right, so they're also in the verse. Let's see if we can just hone in on those. Alright, so it's just a held hey and then a yeah that gives a bit of... The yeah in that is, again, kind of a percussive element in a way. Then this is one of my favourite bits of the vocal stuff, is the choir. So the choir is all me. It's not... I didn't, go and pay for a choir to sing on my track. This is all me, and I made it sound like I'm, there's 1,000 of me singing in a church. So let's listen to the choir sing.
Oh, put on your blue suede shoes, dance like you're singing the blues. Hold me here tight like you do. Heart and my feet can't refuse. Heart and my feet can't refuse. World's big enough for us two, dancing like we're singing. Scream out those secret I scream out secret I love you, like a wolf without the moon.
Alright, so you hear it, yeah, there's some messiness in there, but that choir is really giving it that big sound. I was almost tempted with that choir sound to do one of those where you do the repeat of the chorus and it's just a boom clap kind of thing, but I thought that might be a bit much. And then we have these howls, so this is just emphasizing what's already there. Alright, so it's just emphasizing, because I'm howling or singing ooh in the lead vocal, in the backing vocal, so this is just adding to that, but giving something really big for the howling. Alright, so there's some tuning going on and that sort of thing to make things sound sort of really polished for those howls. But it was kind of necessary with the song calling the song Howl. We needed to have some howls in there that sound sort of really big. So I wanted to add a track specific to that. And that's pretty much everything. When we get into the outro, we of course have the lead guitar that you can definitely hear in the mix. But there's also a harmony to the lead guitar. So let me play the lead guitar with the harmony and hear the two together. So look, it's hardly John Mayer, all right? I'm not an incredible guitarist, but I managed to figure out how to play those parts. And I think what I've kind of discovered just in going through these tracks with you is that there's a lot of imperfections. When you kind of solo things out, there's a lot of imperfections in some of these parts, but it doesn't seem to matter, all right? So when you listen to those two guitars together, yeah, they're not perfectly lined up. There's moments where one guitar plays a fraction of a second before the other. But lining those things up might have sort of spoiled things. What's really awesome about this arrangement and this song and this mix is that it sounds like a real band, but it's not a real band, it's just me. So what's kind of enlightening to me is that those imperfections may have actually been something that was really necessary in this mix, and ironing out all of those creases could have spoilt that magic a little bit. One last time then, we've gone through everything, one last time let's hear that chorus one more time.